Well, hi, everybody, and welcome. I'm Dana Bristol-Smith with Leap to Success, and I'm so glad that you're with us today for Self-Care in Stressful Times. This is episode 16, and we're going to do something a little different today that I'm really excited about. We started this series initially for our community partners. And our community partners are agencies and organizations that are working with people in crisis. They're working with people that need support for a variety of reasons. And we've got here in San Diego, I think more than 50, and it's probably about 60 different community partner agencies. And many of you have been with us week after week. And so what we're doing today, which I'm really excited about, is we're having a panel discussion with three of our community partners. These are women in helping professions, and you'll get to meet them and hear from them in just a moment about what they've learned, how they're using it, and how they're really taking care of themselves during this difficult time so that they can be there for others, just like all of you on our call who are there for others, whether it's folks in your family or people you work with or people that you serve. So thank you for being with us. For those who aren't familiar, Leap to Success is a women's empowerment organization, and we're based in Carlsbad, California. And we exist to educate and empower women who are overcoming domestic violence, homelessness, and other major life challenges. And we normally do that through in-class, in-person meetings, which obviously we're not doing now during the pandemic, but we have transitioned everything online, and we're actually starting our very first Leap to Confidence program next week, virtually online on Zoom, and it's already filled to capacity. So we're really excited about that. If you're not familiar with what Leap to Confidence is, please visit our website, leaptosuccess.org, and you can learn about it there. But right now, what I'd like to do is introduce you to Alyssa, who's providing our technical support, and she will share a little bit about how you can participate, because we want to hear from you as well during this webinar. So here's Alyssa.
Hi, everyone. So glad you could make it for our 16th episode of Self-Care in Stressful Times with our lovely self-care panelists that we have today. A couple of different things. If you've missed our other Self-Care in Stressful Times episodes, we do have those available for you to watch on both our YouTube channel, which is Leap to Success, and our website, which Dana mentioned is leaptosuccess.org. We've compiled a self-care library so you can really take time to nurture yourself and give yourself the tools you need to get through this stressful time. And during today's conversation, we are going to be asking you for your input on tools that you've used to help yourself during this time, as well as topics that you might be wanting to hear from us. So if you would like to interact with the other attendees on this webinar, make sure before you send a chat that you have your settings set to all panelists and attendees. Otherwise, we will just see your answers, which is fine if that's what you prefer. Thank you, Dana.
Thanks, Alyssa. So as you know, it's really difficult time, or it's a difficult time, and it's even more difficult to carve out time for self-care. You might have wanted to start meditating. You might have wanted to start exercising or exercise more. And it's really tough. It's tough to develop new habits because we really need to kind of invest and do things a little bit differently. So that's why we started this series for people like you in mind that wanted to give yourselves a break, that were willing to invest 30 minutes once a week to learn some new tools or a refresher about tools that you knew, but you just weren't using them. So we've covered topics like mindfulness, gratitude, staying calm in the midst of chaos, and 15 other topics over these weeks. But this week, what we really want to do is we want to hear from you, and we want to hear from our panelists, who I'm going to introduce in just a moment, about how they're using them. So let me jump right in and tell you who's with us today and ask them to say hello. Our first guest is Patti Stanford from Goodwill Industries. And I also have to share that Patti is also a board member of Leap to Success. But Patti, please say hello and tell us about your role at Goodwill.
Thank you, Dana. Hi, I am the Community Employment Manager for Goodwill Industries, just meaning I oversee our 5 employment centers that are helping people in the community find jobs.
Thank you, Patti, and I'm so glad that you're with us today. Next, I want to introduce you to Gladys Bailon of Exodus Recovery, and also share with you that we met Gladys about 5 years ago when she was a participant in our Transformation Leadership Program. And I remember her setting a goal that she wanted to work as a helping professional, and here she is today doing that. So Gladys, welcome, and please tell us about your role at Exodus Recovery.
Thank you. I am a therapeutic coach at Exodus Recovery, and we offer therapeutic services for children, adults, and their families that have IDD or are on the spectrum and have autism.
Great. Thank you, Gladys. I'm so happy that you're with us today. And our third panelist is Veronica Weber-Nagao from Palomar Health North County, First 5 Steps. And Veronica, welcome, and please tell us about your role with Palomar Health. Oh, Veronica, you're muted.
Thank you.
There
I
you
am
are.
a family support specialist with First 5 First Steps, and we work with mothers from their prenatal period until baby turns 3 years old. So we help with milestones and help in getting them ready for when they start school.
Thank you, Veronica, and I'm so glad that you're with us today. Okay, we're going to jump right into the questions. And I'm going to start with you, Patti, first. So what have you learned that's been most helpful to you from these self-care episodes, and how have you been using it?
I have enjoyed these self-care episodes very much. Every session I feel like brings a lot of value. And I go back and look at my notes a lot. One of the most basic but most impactful things for me is just the soft belly breathing. Mm-hmm. And just to take that time to realize you don't have to have 30 minutes or an hour. You can just sit and do that breathing for 10 breaths or 20 breaths and totally reorganize your brain and your nervous system so that you can approach things in a calmer, more compassionate way.
Oh, that's great. Thank you, Patti. And for those of you who aren't familiar with soft belly breathing, it's a really simple practice of breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. And as you breathe in, saying soft, and as you breathe out, saying belly internally. And it's been used to help people with trauma, and it's incredibly powerful and really simple. So thank you for sharing that, Patti. Next, Gladys, what's been most helpful to you, and how have you been using it?
I think for me, the concept of self-care versus self-nurturing has been very important to me. When I would think of self-care, it was almost something that I needed to do on my to-do list. And usually it was towards the bottom. It was work, my kids, and other priorities. And so now when I think of it nurturing and replenishing and refueling myself. And so I've been implementing that, especially in the morning. So I wake up and I practice some grounding. Gratitude exercises have been very helpful. And again, the arrival technique, which I love so much. So that's what I've been incorporating daily.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. And many of those practices Kelly Grimes has shared with us, and really powerful practices. And I think this whole thing is about resetting and refueling is really important, because these are busy days and there's a lot of demands that are placed on all of us. So Veronica, let's hear from you now. What's been most helpful, and how have you been using it? And I'm really excited for you to share also how your colleagues are using some of these tips and skills.
And so I'm very similar to Patti. I also write things down, and I started doing that for myself, and then sending them out to my colleagues and calling them like highlights from the self-care and stressful time series. And then I'd send the link that Alyssa would provide for me. And then it just became like my weekly ritual, so I could also figure out what I was learning from it and I could get some support. And now there's 4 of us that are also having these conversations and are incorporating it into our work culture. So something that we also do is the soft belly breathing that I think is just super important. Our breath is always with us. So that's definitely one of the items that we've all incorporated, just finding what our breath can do for us and just having the ability to calm ourselves down, and also just being kinder to ourselves instead of being critical. One of the things that was really highlighted by one of my peers was that instead of doing a to-do list, now at the end of the day, she has a done list. So that has been huge for a lot of us.
Oh, those are great. Wow, I heard from so many different episodes, some of the things that you just shared, and I love that you're sharing it with your colleagues and it's becoming part of your work culture. I mean, what if we all really set about creating healthy work cultures? You know, we're all in helping professions, we're helping people recover, you know, mental health and physical health, and we've really got to be practicing these tools in order to have our own health. So we have that stamina and that reserve to be working with others. So, you know, that brings me to this moment that we're in right now, where there's not a lot outside of ourselves that we have control over right now. We don't have control over how others behave. We don't have control over the rules and restrictions that are in place and that are changing for our own health and safety. So with that in mind, there are things that we have control over, but that doesn't mean that it's easy to take control. It doesn't mean that it's easy. And Patti, you said, you know, we might not have 30 minutes to carve out. So my next question for each of you is, what do you struggle with or need more support with? And we really want to hear from you. And then we're also going to reach out to our audience and hear from our audience. And we want to keep these things in mind because you'll be helping us plan our future episodes. So Patti, what's one area that you can use some more support with?
Recently, with all the things that have come up in our society with the systemic racism that has been in place for so long, you know, I feel shame around that topic. You know, I've been a part of this world this whole time and just now realizing so many different things. And I think it would be helpful to maybe have a session about how to deal with that and be resilient through it and turn it into a good thing. But to love yourself when you're not happy with yourself or disappointed in yourself.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you, Patti. I think that's really something to explore. And I think that's how, you know, healing happens, is we're able to bring these things forward and talk about them and shed light on them. So thank you very much for that. And I know that, you know, anti-racism work is really, really important. Yeah, and examining these issues. So thank you. Gladys, what's one thing for you that you still struggle with?
I think for me, guilt and shame, culturally, self-care and self-nurturing practice are not very common. So when I say to my children, I need 5 minutes for myself, they're like, what do you mean? But just setting those boundaries, I think has been a little bit challenging because I do wear different hats. I'm a working parent, so being pulled in different directions and prioritizing myself has been challenging, but also understanding and reminding myself that if I'm not okay, spiritually, emotionally, physically, I'm not going to be able to be present with my children. I'm not going to be able to thrive at work. So that's been challenging.
Thank you, Gladys. And I know for moms, we can feel guilty taking that 5 minutes because there are little people demanding our time and attention. So, and I think especially now I know Gladys and Veronica, you each have small children and you're working from home now. as many people are. So you have to wear these multiple hats and often at the same time. So it's really, really tough. Thanks, Gladys. And Veronica, what's something for you?
I also feel the guilt. I was brought up where resting wasn't something you did. Like if you had a moment, then you had to find something to do. So getting out of that mindset where it's okay to rest has been really difficult, or to just take time that I need to pause or to do something for myself instead of washing the dishes, or instead of picking something up, or instead of finding something. So that's been really difficult to get out of that mindset and to actually take the steps towards it's okay to take a couple of breaths before you start something else, or to just take, a 10-minute walk.
Yeah, thank you, Veronica. I think that is really important to give ourselves the time to pause. And wouldn't it be powerful to teach our children to have those times of pause, in between their activities as well? That, they might have an hour or 2-hour nap in the afternoon if they're small, but, then they're going at 90 miles an hour the rest of the time. So to have those transition points, I think would be really healthy for everybody, and to set those boundaries. So thank you. I think those are great topics for us to explore on future episodes. And now I want to ask our audience members, and I'd love it if you would write in the chat, what are some areas that you're struggling with around your self-care, areas that you could use support? And I'll go ahead and read them, share them. I know that our friends on Facebook won't necessarily be seeing these. So what do you struggle with or need more support with? If you'd go ahead and share. Yeah, thank you. Okay. I think they will be coming in now, and it's hard to think about, isn't it? I think sometimes and it's hard to admit that we do need support. And I think especially for people who are used to being the ones to provide the help and provide the support, it's tough. So someone's mentioning that she's not able to stay focused for very long. So I think that's something there's so many distractions. And Veronica, you mentioned it too, like there might be dirty dishes in the sink. And so that, we just go from activity to activity to activity, and then have guilt about, well, I'm not keeping up in my household responsibilities. Oh, how nice. Somebody has just shared. She says, I just want to acknowledge first of all, the honesty of the panel. I'm very inspired by your courage and your leadership. That's really sweet. Thank you for that. Someone else is mentioning, I struggle with setting aside time and being intentional of using that time solely for my self-care or self-nurturing. And she loves the concept of self-nurturing. So when Kelly's back with us next week, we will have Kelly share about self-nurturing because she's the expert in that arena. Someone else has mentioned dealing with grief and what you can't do anymore and what you can't do now. Yeah, I think we've got grief, we've got disappointment. People are carrying around a lot of pain, and mental health challenges are really tough right now. Okay, they're flooding in right now. I've got someone saying some of the challenges have also been to prioritize myself when my work is to serve others. Yeah, I love the, if you think about this metaphor of a cup, and a cup with a saucer beneath it. And for many of us, our cups aren't very full because we're depleted. We're giving and giving and giving. And so this idea of self-nurturing, or this idea of really caring for ourselves, is a way that we fill the cup up so that it can overflow. And then we give from the overflow, not from the empty cup. Someone else has shared the loneliness. And even though we can connect online, she says that she's a hugger, and not being able to have that physical contact is hard. until this is over, it might not change. So I know we've been practicing these kinds of things and the self-hugging, but I think really talking about those things is really important when we can't be connected in the way that we're used to being connected with others. Someone else again has mentioned grief and reminding ourselves to live in the present. So I think we can definitely dive into more of those topics with more practices. And I think that can be really helpful. So thank you all for sharing those. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and transition now to my final question for my panelists. And this question is, I'm going to ask for your advice from your own wisdom to our audience. And here's the question. What is one thing that people can do for themselves that you think can really make a big difference in terms of how they're caring for themselves and how they can work on refilling that cup? So Patti, I'll come to you first. What's one thing that you recommend?
The thing that helps me the most in my life is first thing in the morning, setting aside time, and it doesn't matter how much, but at least a few minutes to just connect with myself and to go within. And if I could have more time, it's better, but to have that starting the day aware of that. And to Dana's point, trying to get your cup full so much that it's overflowing while you go throughout the day. Also, scheduling appointments with yourself, if you use Microsoft Outlook or even your phone for alarms, just to remind yourself, let me take a minute now and do my breathing or come back. That can be helpful too, to keep you reminded of what's really important to you.
That's great. Great. Thank you, Patti. Okay, and Gladys, what advice can you share?
I think it's important to be kind and be gentle with yourself, and also reflect on the small successes of the day. For me personally, it was the kids brushed their teeth and showered. It could be something so small, but that's something that we've had a difficult time, in implementing a routine. So just being kind and gentle with yourself.
That's great advice. Thank you. And that's a big deal, having kids shower and brush their teeth. That's not a small thing. Thank you. And even making sure that we do it ourselves too. Okay, and Veronica, what's one piece of advice that you can share?
I think along the lines that Gladys just shared, I know I've been placing my hand over my heart and really making it a practice to say kind things to myself, because I know that I tend to say kind things to others, but then I forget about myself and I'm overcritical of everything I do instead of being gentle and kind to myself. And then just starting to believe those kind words too. So I think that's where this has led me in my practice.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you. And our guest that we had on a few episodes ago, our special guest, Diana Shimkus, shared the idea of taking a self-compassion break. And the idea of that was putting a hand over your heart. And what is a word or phrase that you can give yourself to give yourself compassion? And, I don't know about you, but that was something I was never taught. I think it's really easy for us to be critical and to look at those things that we don't complete, or those things are areas that we've made a mistake, or, I wish something would be different than it is, rather than this practice of self-acceptance, which is really key to giving ourselves a break. Really, really important. I'd like to ask our audience members now, what's one piece of advice that you'd like to share with others that's been working for you in terms of taking care of yourself and filling up your cup so that you can be there for others? And let's see what you all have to share. So I'm opening up my chat to see, and I see that Elizabeth has written, put it in our chat area, what is one piece of advice that's been working for you that you can share? And I know we've got some self-care experts. And I know, back to your point, Gladys, about the kids taking a shower, and someone mentioned that, yeah, she needs to remember to take the shower and brush her teeth too, as we all do. And sometimes, you know, the day just gets going. Someone has written, and here's a really important point: never give up. Never give up. From someone else, practicing gratitude every day, and even moments as necessary. Yeah, I think that's really important. Being grateful for those things that maybe, you know, a few months ago didn't seem like such a big deal. But, you know, really being grateful for our health, being grateful for our safety, being grateful for our employment when so many people today are unemployed. Being grateful that we can be someone that others come to. Yeah, really, really important. So let's see if any other advice comes flooding in. What's been working for you? Someone has said, having conversations with people who can relate while expressing our feelings and emotions. Yeah, really important. I know for our team, we do a lot more check-ins than we used to. You know, just really checking in on each other and seeing each other in this format in Zoom, because we can't be in person. So whether that's work colleagues, whether that's friends, whether that's family, I think it's really, really important to have those conversations now when people are feeling more isolation and more fear. You know, when we're able to express those things that we're feeling and not keep them bottled up, it helps to dissipate the fear. It helps to dissipate the anxiety and just make us feel a whole lot better. Well, this has been great advice. I really appreciate each of our panelists being with us today. So I want to thank Patti and Gladys and Veronica. I want to thank all of our listeners for being with us for self-care in stressful times. I want to invite you to go take a look at past episodes on our leaptosuccess.org website, even on our Facebook page too, and join in this conversation. Share what's working for you. Share those areas that you're struggling with, and let's really continue to be this community that cares for each other and cares for the people that we serve. So be well, my friends, and I look forward to seeing you again next Tuesday for self-care in stressful times. Bye-bye.